Oh, hi there. This is episode 16 of season 2 of the Horror Headquarters. Welcome in, welcome back, and hi to everyone that's listening for the very first time. So sorry for the delay. I actually took a very secret and fun trip to Scotland, you guys. I went to Scotland for about a week. It was so much fun, and while I was there, I got to visit so many different haunted locations, including Greyfriars Kirkyard, which is the topic of today's episode. So make sure to sit back, relax, grab some popcorn. This is going to be a deep dive of Greyfriars Kirkyard, the people inside of it, inspiration behind it, and lots of things that I've experienced in there. And just letting you guys know now, a lot of really horrific things occurred, both in the moment and then days later. So I hope you guys are ready for this. So, little fun fact first, as soon as I landed in Edinburgh, Scotland, and dropped off all my luggage at the hotel, I headed straight to Greyfriars Kirkyard because I heard from a local that that's one of the most popular places in the United Kingdom, not to mention one of the most horrific and haunted places in the entire world. Now, what makes this place so popular is that hundreds of thousands of people are buried in this kirkyard. Now, the landscape is very twisty-turvy. What I mean by that, it is not leveled at all. And I thought that was just part of the design. It wasn't until I took multiple tours that I found out that the reason why it looks like that is because there's basically bodies right under where you're stepping, because they didn't have the money to afford to bury so many people in one area, so they would just topple them on top of each other. So I want you to think about that. There might be maybe about 1,000 like tombstones, maybe 200 tombstones. I think more than that, but think about that: 100 to 200,000 people that they know of are buried in Greyfriars Kirkyard. So that's more than 90% of them, 95% of them, 99% of people that are buried there are not accounted for. As we all know, especially back then, in order to have a tombstone made, you had to have money. Now, I was walking through Greyfriars Kirkyard. Like I said, I knew little to nothing about this place until I actually went to it and I realized this place is actually very haunted. Just walking around, looking at different tombstones, and I was feeling a really weird energy from one particular place of the kirkyard. And it's as soon as you walk through from the church entrance all the way down to the left, there's a gated area, and I didn't know what it was. So I just kept walking around, saw Tom Riddle's tombstone and so many other people's tombstones that were inspired by J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. Just so everyone knows, that's the books. They are based off characters, many of them from Greyfriars Kirkyard, because she was spending lots of time there. Now, when I took a tour with a tour guide, the first one, he discussed Greyfriars Kirkyard vaguely, and then he also discussed the Covenanters prison, how it's gated off and you need a key to get inside, and only one tour guide has that very key. Now, I'm just going to put that out there right now. I was not able to go in, but thank God I wasn't able to go in, because when I learned more about it, the more I told myself I am so blessed that I didn't even step foot in that area. Now, the second tour guide I took, which was about 2 days later, discussed the Covenanters prison in deep, deep detail. He discussed how, basically, back in the 1660s, 1,200 Covenanters that were Scottish Presbyterians, and they believed that no king, no matter how divine he claimed to be, had the right to control the church. And their covenant was signed in blood and conviction, and it was basically a declaration of spiritual independence. Now, it comes at no surprise that the king did not like that, and this king was King Charles II. And to him, these Covenanters were dangerous heretics and rebels. So in 1679, after the Battle of Bothwell Bridge, his army captured over 1,200 of them, and you would think they would be thrown in prison. No, 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 no. They were herded like animals into a field behind what is now Greyfriars Kirkyard. No shelter, no beds, just dirt, chains, and lots of dead bodies. And this field became known as the Covenanters Prison, and it was the world's first concentration camp centuries before the term even existed. Now, you have to understand the conditions of this place, because of those imprisoned, hundreds died of starvation, of disease, exposure. You guys are in close proximity of 1,200 people. I want you to imagine that. Like, we saw the area, and I'm going to be posting a picture of what that prison looked like. It is very, very, very minuscule compared to what you'd think 1,200 people would fit in. So some were executed, others were sold into slavery into the Americas and the West Indies, and there was one man who was responsible for all of the suffering, and his name is Sir George Mackenzie. And just saying his name sent shivers down my back. because this man, it's ironic because in 1691, he was buried just feet from the prison where his victims suffered. He has this beautiful, beautiful tombstone decorated for him, this beautiful building constructed from concrete and stone that has his remains inside. And this man was brutal, and there's a reason why he's called Bloody Mackenzie, because he was ruthless. He did not give a shit about these people, and he would torture them in ways you couldn't possibly imagine. For example, there was one man that tried to escape, and Bloody Mackenzie, he had this guy beheaded, and he took his head and put him on top of one of the structures that was inside the prison. I want to share with you some of the most horrific stories I was told about coming out of prison. The first one is about the screaming boy. So in 1680, a young boy who was about 10 years old was imprisoned with his father inside this prison. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was just next to his father at all times. He never left him. And according to a letter from a local minister, this boy would scream every single night at the same time, claiming that a man with no eyes was crawling towards him from the shadows of the yard. And the guards tried to silence him, but the screams continued for 12 nights until they suddenly stopped. They opened the gates, they went in, and they found that the child was found dead, curled up against the wall, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in terror, and there was no cause of death. And his father, the next day, was hanged, and no one spoke of the boy ever again. Now, as I discussed earlier, a lot of these prisoners fell ill. Disease was spreading rapidly, being that everyone is in close proximity to each other. I mean, I think that people are pooping next to each other. They're coughing at each other. They're sneezing in a very secluded area. So in December of 1679, during a particularly bitter stretch, the corpse cart didn't come for 4 days. This is the corpse cart is what picks up the bodies and buries them. Over 40 bodies were laid frozen, eyes open, some with limbs stiffly pointed to the sky like they had died mid-reach. When the cart finally came, the driver reportedly fled screaming, and he claimed that the bodies had moved, rearranged themselves, stating that one was seated, arms crossed, another was kneeling, face pressed into the soil, and this driver never worked again. Alright, last one before I move on to Mackenzie and his final days. So, during the spring of 1680, there were some grave diggers that opened a trench just outside the prison walls to bury nearly 300 bodies, victims of starvation, exposure, disease, and as they were laying the corpses in, one digger heard what he described as a wailing sound coming from beneath the dirt. Not like one voice, but hundreds screaming at him. The ground shook, the trench collapsed in on itself, burying some of the diggers with the dead. And there was a local clergy at the time that claimed it was the devil warning them to stop. And this exact site has never been dug up again, and it remains undisturbed to this day. So if it hasn't hit yet, this place is extremely, extremely cursed and haunted. But this last one is gonna send chills down your spine, because the same exact guy, Bloody Mackenzie, that was responsible for all of these deaths, for over 1,200 deaths, went crazy. Moments before his death, Sir George Mackenzie was said to be tormented by visions, and according to his own letters, he claimed to wake up each night to the sound of scratching beneath the floorboards, and he wrote that he saw a man with bleeding eyes standing in the corner of his room just watching, and the final written words were, "They are not buried, they wait for me." He died shortly after, and like I said, they buried him at Greyfriars, just steps from where the Covenanters' bodies were dumped. Now he rests there. Or it doesn't. Some people say that he was dug up, that he was taken elsewhere, or some people say that his body completely dissipated into thin air, that he wasn't actually buried, and the place was built just in recognition of his death, of his life. Because obviously, being an assistant to the king, he was very wealthy. Now, I visited both of these locations. When I went to the Covenanters prison, I have a video of myself putting my hand through the gates, and I left it there for maybe 20 seconds, and I felt someone grabbing my wrist, like right where my palm finishes, someone was grabbing right there. And I pulled it back, and I went to Bloody Mackenzie's tomb, and I looked through, and guys, this is a true story. I looked through, didn't see anything, and I was like, okay, I think this is just bogus. I looked a little bit longer. I suddenly saw something with pointed shoulders looking directly at me. I did not see the face. All I saw was the neckline to the shoulders, and it was draped in black. It basically looked like a vampire was staring at me, the clothing. And I freaked out. I almost tripped and fell behind me. And there was some lady, she started freaking out because she saw my reaction on my face. I was flooded in red. And I actually recorded myself in this moment because I could not believe what I had experienced. Now, I thought I was going crazy, and like I said, I didn't do any research before this, and I searched up who was George Mackenzie, what did he look like, and I explained to Google that I saw something with pointed shoulders, like it looked like he had shoulder pads on, and I put that in Google, and it turns out that many other people have said the same exact thing, that they saw something with very broad shoulders staring at them from inside the tomb. At that moment, went even more ballistic because I knew I wasn't crazy. I also made the mistake of repeating a nursery rhyme that's connected to George Mackenzie in Greyfriar's Kirkyard, and it's a little verse that Scottish children supposedly use to sing as a dare, a warning, or a curse. And it's been passed on in variations, but the most famous one goes like this, and this is exactly how I said it. Bloody Mackenzie, come out if you dare, lift the snib and draw the bar. What that means is, open the lock and unbolt the door. And that's basically a dare to open his tomb. After I said that, about 2 minutes later, that's when I saw his broad shoulders. And it didn't hit me until after. And I said, oh my god, it's because I said this nursery rhyme. But I tried not to think too much of it, and I just went around and went about on my day. Yeah, that's when everything went horrifically wrong. So if you remember earlier in the podcast, I said that I sticked my hand inside of the Covenanters prison. I really wish I hadn't done this because a couple days later, I was experiencing a horrific pain in the same exact wrist, and it would not stop. And on top of that, I was getting a really weird pain on my chin. It felt like someone was grabbing my chin, like, you know when someone's like about to kiss you, like whether it's a family member, they just want to give you a kiss. That's what it felt like. Someone was grabbing my chin very aggressively, and it just made me so sore. Now, when I got back home, I was overcome with lots of different visions. I was experiencing a lot of weird things. I would leave something in one area and find it completely different area, and it started creeping me out. I thought it was going crazy. And then I just had a splurge of bad luck happen. Everything was going wrong. Anything that could have gone wrong was going wrong. I was having issues with my car. I was waking up not feeling myself. I was waking up with like dots all over my body and like scars in areas that I never figured there could even be a scar from. I don't know what it was from. I was waking up with aches in my body. So much was going wrong that I felt like I was going crazy. And in my room, I would always hear some kind of creaking next to my window. It wasn't until I finally burned some sage one day and I cleansed out my entire area, cleansed out the windows, went to the front door, that it all went away. But guys, this experience is possibly one of the worst things I've ever felt, if not the worst, because it felt so realistic and it felt like it was never gonna go away. And on top of all of this, I think the worst thing that happened from this experience was I was smelling something. Now, I don't know what it was. I would smell in different areas, in 3 different areas. My bedroom, the living room, and in my car. I would be overcome with this horrific, horrific smell. It smelled like some kind of metal. Something was burning, like when someone lights a match. That's the smell that I was experiencing, and I could not explain it. And if you guys think I'm crazy, I actually texted my sister at 2 a.m. at night, asking her if she was like burning some incense because she burns incense a lot. She was completely knocked out. I was talking to a ghost, and that smell went away about 5 minutes later. So she like came and talked to me. She's like, "What's going on?" I explained the whole thing to her, and thankfully she believed me in all the situations. I still can't get over the fact that that happened, and it's something that, again, still haunts me, because I think I definitely have to reflect a lot more on it, but the sage helped a lot. And to anyone listening that might think I'm crazy, I'm not crazy, because you can search it up, look at Greyfriar's Kirkyard. There are so many things that have happened hundreds of years later. For example, in the 1990s, a homeless man went into George Mackenzie's tomb to seek refuge and to get some warmth. The floor below him ended up collapsing and he died. After that, that's when they decided to close up the door and bolt it. And there's been many psychics that visited this location. There was even one psychic that went and she was terrified for her life and she ended up dying the next morning. She was like sent to the ER because of her experience that she had. So over 500 paranormal investigators have refused to return to that same exact tomb or to even set foot in Greyfriar's Kirkyard because of the experiences they had while they were in attendance. At George Mackenzie's tomb, over 500 attacks have been documented, and that's just the official number. Bruises, burns, cracked ribs, and there's even one woman who was found with claw marks on her neck despite standing alone next to it. And this poltergeist seems to be tied not just to Mackenzie, but to the emotional trauma embedded in the land, the suffering of the Covenanters, the betrayal, the rage. It's not just a ghost, it's a collective wound tearing itself open again and again. When I went on my tour, I saw many people trying to experience something. There was many of them that I was seeing them touch their necks as well as on their hands, which is the two most obvious places. I thought it was complete bogus. I went into this completely open-minded. I said, this is probably just bogus, a quick money scheme. That's why you pay so much money for this tour, just to get basically bullshitted into believing something. No. Guys, it was real. It was legit. And having the experience that I had there, I honestly don't think I'd ever get near George Mackenzie's tomb or the Covenanters prison. Hence why I said in the beginning of this episode, I'm so happy I didn't end up going inside the Covenanters prison, that I didn't do the tour to go inside, because I think that would have been 1,000 times worse. Do I think I'll go in the future? No, but is there a possibility I will? Yes, but honestly, if I do, I'm absolutely crazy. Like, maybe when I'm 110, I'll exercise the idea, because I'm already pushing 110. I mean, why not try it out? And I want to tell you guys one more thing. The day before I left, I went back to Greyfriar's Kirkyard, and I tried getting rid of whatever I thought was attached to me, because I felt like a demon was attached to me, giving me lots of bad luck, and basically eating me alive. I went back to Greyfriar's Kirkyard, tried doing a prayer, multiple prayers, to rid this demon or this soul back into its final resting place, and I thought I was successful. And walking out of Greyfriar's Kirkyard for the last time, I felt something tug at my shoulder. I turned around in lightning speed, and the tour guide looked at me like I was crazy, and they had a bunch of people around them, and I just looked completely stunned. Like, my eyes were widened. I legit thought someone touched me. There was no one around me. Tour guide said, "Are you okay?" I couldn't even answer him. I sped out so quickly, and I think everyone was kind of freaked out because everyone was staring at me because I couldn't believe what I had just experienced. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I honestly believe that Greyfriar's Kirkyard, George Mackenzie's tomb, the Covenanters prison, was more horrific than Eloise Asylum. Yep, I said it. The feeling there, for anyone that's listening that's visited this place, I hope you guys can agree with me on this, because that place was otherworldly. It felt like you're entering a different dimension going in, realizing you're walking over people's bodies. There's so many people that have lost their lives over sickness, over being in prison, starved to death. So much pain, horror, and terror there. So much bloodshed, so much regret, so much betrayal in one tiny place. I'm gonna end it there. There will most likely be a part 2 to this, because I am planning on releasing a video episode on this experience, because I did record quite a lot of content while I was in Greyfriar's Kirkyard. It's gonna be released in, I believe, like over 45-minute vlog that I recorded while I was in Scotland. So I recorded a bunch of different things. I'm gonna be uploading that on YouTube. Hopefully here on the podcast, I'm gonna be taking those tidbits and incorporating them into an episode. But obviously there's so many other haunted locations that I crossed paths with while I was in Edinburgh and while I was in Scotland. So make sure to stick around for that. I'm trying to be as nonchalant as possible, but just discussing this experience terrifies me because of how realistic it felt and how real it still feels to this day. So I just make sure to say a prayer before I started this podcast, and then I'm going to say a prayer as soon as it's finished to kind of close off that energy and not allow it to enter back into my life. So I'm just going to say stay tuned for the vlog that I did in Scotland. Stay tuned for everything to come. And the craziest part, if you guys reach this far, I told you this is going to be a surprise. I have been invited back to visit one of the most horrific places in the entire world, in my opinion. and that's tomorrow. So today's Wednesday, tomorrow is Thursday. That is the day that I've been invited to visit someplace. I'm not gonna say what, but I did kind of give you guys a hint in this episode. So if you guys want, you can listen to it back. I did tell you guys kind of the place I'm gonna be going to. I did announce it. Not directly, kind of indirectly. Now this is probably taking a long stretch, it's probably impossible, but if anyone from Scotland is listening, I love you guys so much. I appreciate the support. I'm so blessed for the love. Like, I can't even begin to emphasize how much fun I had over there, how kind everyone was to me, the environment, the locations, everyone and everything was just perfect. And I would visit 1,000 more times if I could. So I hope to be able to return soon. Next stop is definitely going to be a different location because I want to keep traveling the world, seeing all these cool and haunted places, and just the architecture is stunning. So if you are in Scotland, a big love letter to Scotland, to anyone listening from Scotland, to anyone that's visited Scotland and knows exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you. And to everyone listening for the first time, anyone listening repeatedly, I can't even speak, multiple times, I appreciate it, guys. This is my podcast. I'm sorry if I'm always stuttering. I try to be as realistic as possible. I try to be as unscripted as possible, where I'm not just reading off something and it just sounds boring. I try to make it as interesting as possible. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure to share it out to your friends, to your family, post it on Instagram, tell people about the horror headquarters. I know I haven't released an episode in almost a month now. I'm so sorry again for that. Life is crazy. I'm gonna try to keep my word and post about the experience I'm gonna have tomorrow, post that big vlog I told you guys about, post about my experience in Edinburgh, Scotland, the videos I took while I was in Greyfriar's Kirkyard, while I was at the Covenanters prison, as well as many other locations. So stay tuned for all that, you guys. Also, if you like this episode and you enjoy this podcast, make sure to hit that follow button. I really appreciate the love and support. Love you guys so much. I promise you there's more to come, and I know I always say that and then I go incognito for a month because I'm trying to create the best content for you guys. So everyone take care. Love you guys dearly, and I will see you guys on the next one. And until next time, whenever that may be, tread very lightly and pray for forgiveness. Midnight hour is approaching nearby.